So I want to tell you, first of all, I am beyond thrilled that you would agree to do this, because the truth, Brianna, is that for decades, I've been telling people I know you, and they go, how could you know her? She's like so important. Like
Oh, God.
how possibly could you know her? But I do now have evidence. So this is good. So thank you for doing this. I really appreciate that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love you, and always, I will do anything for you.
Oh, now we have it on tape.
Right? Oops.
Oops, love that. Love that. I have two things that I want to, in specific, talk with you about today. It'd be sort of also respectful of the time. It's funny. It seems to me like we're on sort of quarantine kind of pandemic, but in a way it feels like it's never been so busy. Is that true for you?
Yeah, it's a weird kind of busy. And I think part of that has been because we're all adjusting to what this kind of new temporary normal is. Also, many of us have had to downsize support staff because of how hard hit our industry has been. So that obviously affects the feeling of busyness. And I think there's also this idea of you don't want to get left in the dust, right? Like,
Right.
even though our industry is kind of on hold, there are things that we can be doing. Life goes on. The industry still is rolling along. Things are still in development. Things are happening. And so I think early on in all of this, there was a little bit of like, okay, it's kind of break time. People were talking about what projects they were going to do at home and all this kind of stuff. I had a little bit of a list. And then I quickly realized, wait a second, no, like this is not a time to take a back seat. We had to really look at how we can be proactive for our clients, take advantage of what was going on, find new ways of networking and reaching out to people, just so we all kept some sanity, and that so when things do start to bounce back, it doesn't feel like such a stretch. It just feels like, okay, now we're kind of readjusting into what we already knew at one point.
Yeah.
But like it's, for one example too, for us is we don't have an adult voiceover department formally, but we started going after some voiceover stuff because that's one of the areas that has been least affected. So that brought on a whole new list of challenges and tasks and things to take on. And so that, so things like that, but we're just having to be really creative.
Love it. Love it. And you get a whole new collection of people to meet, right? Because a lot of those voice acting people are people that we don't get to connect with regularly during the business. So that's good. So for actors, because we're talking to actors, which I do all the time, which is why I look like this at 27, is from talking to actors all the time. Sorry. What do you want them most to know about how they can best prepare? I mean, we're seeing the proliferation, certainly, of the self-tape auditions that had been happening anyway, and now we're seeing the introduction of the virtual audition platform. But what do they need to know to stay sane and stay sort of on the right track as things begin to ramp up again?
Well, I think it's really important to understand, just like what I was saying about how you kind of can't take a back seat and let this all just happen, and then one day, because I don't think there's going to be a day in our industry where it says, okay, everything back to normal, go. It's going to be this gradual reintroduction of certain things that look more familiar, how much production actually gets going again. It's not going to be start now. And so I think what's really important for actors is that they continue to stay sharp in their acting ability. So even if the auditions aren't as frequent right now because there's not as much production happening, there are ways to stay sharp. There are obviously online classes. There are opportunities so many casting directors have been doing challenges and ways to sell. I mean, even if it's an open call where your tape is going to be one of thousands, do it as an opportunity to just stretch your acting muscles and practice perfecting your self-tape. And maybe you can then use that tape, or your rep, your agent, or your manager can use that tape to help pitch you for something else. So it's it's useful in many other ways, and continuing to stretch yourself, take on new roles, tape for fun, work with other actors, have them read opposite you, take on some roles, find some material, some characters that you don't normally get to audition for because you're maybe not the obvious type.
Right.
So doing all of those things to really stretch and keep your acting sharp is so critical. And as resistant as some people were to the self-tape before, it's not going anywhere. I think the in-room auditions are going to be among the last things to creep into our business, because it's too easy to just do self-tapes and not have to deal with the organizational nightmare that may be with social distancing and auditions and everything like that. So
Right.
I think people just have to get used to self-taping and learn to love it and make sure their setup is great and perfect it. And I think it's here to stay. Even after we, go back to getting in the room. I mean, we all know it was something that was taking over in a lot of auditions already.
Right,
so
right. It's also an opportunity, I think, for more actors potentially to be seen if it's a self-tape, right? So instead of just how many can I bring into the actual room in the course of an afternoon, that the number becomes sort of, it doesn't matter anymore. You can cast the net a little bit wider, which I think, in a way creates a lot of opportunity for more actors. So that's
I think that's absolutely true.
I've heard from a lot of actors, and maybe you're hearing about this from some of your fellow wizards who have contacted me to say, essentially, help, my management company, my agency is not coming back. Just the financial challenge of all of this has been too much of a struggle to be able to sort of ramp back up and to do this again, because the costs haven't changed. It's just the ability to generate the money to pay those costs is now what the challenge is. So, are you familiar with that? Or, what might you say to somebody in that? Because we don't want to add extra stress to an already stressful situation. And I guess my agenda is I want them to breathe and not really worry about it right away. You'll be okay.
Yeah, I think that's an important message, is don't stress about it too much. There's not a whole lot going on right now anyways. So be patient with it. And I mean, it does mean that they're going to have to go back to the grind of looking for new rep, unfortunately. But I think if you're pitching yourself to an agent or a manager just coldly, or just as any other actor, whether it's a referral or not, that's one thing. But if you can say, look, I was repped, but the company I was with couldn't survive this, that's very different. That says, somebody didn't drop me, I didn't leave them. This is what happened. And so there's a certain amount of legitimacy to you as an actor that comes with that I think makes you also look more appealing and attractive. So I think that's a positive, and something that maybe can be reassuring to those actors that are in that situation where, unfortunately, there are going to be unfortunate casualties of especially small companies throughout this, which is really, really sad. But it's just the reality of it. And hopefully those companies bounce back. I mean, we've seen, there's some colleagues that we work with, and we've seen some people get let go. We've seen people, companies decide they're going to dissolve because they can't afford it. One manager that we work with decided to take it as an opportunity to do a big career shift, and she's going back to college and going to pursue, a degree in something else. So it's making a lot of people make some life choices right now, whether they like it or not.
Right. And the truth is, this is, we're just one industry, one business of many. I mean, this is happening everywhere, right? I mean, drive down any street and you see so many businesses, have closed. And I, in trying to think about, and when I talk to actors in particular about, where we are now and the challenge to move on, and I never take for granted, I know there's a lot of people struggling, right? And so I would never want to brush over that, but I want to be able to encourage them to put all of that in the right place to fuel the creativity for the rebirth in a way. I think that can be very helpful to them.
I think that's true. And I think I think they can take comfort in knowing that they're not alone, that, like you said, it's not just our industry, but it's everywhere. It's everyone that is dealing with this. And that means that everybody understands. Everybody's understanding. Everybody knows that how one person processes all of this is different than somebody else. What someone needs during this time is different than somebody else. You know, we're finding that with our clients as we have various conversations with them. Some are just feeling really overwhelmed by everything that's going on and have really decided, like, I just need to take a bit of a break right now. I want to focus on my mental health and making sure that I'm, you know, have some peace of mind and take care of myself. And it's, you know, we absolutely support that. One of our clients, she's a mom, and her kids, she had to deal with teaching her kids at home, which a lot of people are going through. And I absolutely sympathize with, even though I don't have kids, I can't imagine what that would be like. And so she was like, you know, if anything comes up, it's just got to be, you know, stuff that's really worth it. She was kind of like, I can't do like a little ultra low budget or anything. She's like, there is just I'm a mom, I'm a teacher, I'm a babysitter, I'm a everything right now. So everybody's processing it different. We have some clients right now who have left LA because it doesn't really make a difference if you're in LA right now or not, as long as you can come back for work if you book something, because everything is still just all self-tapes, even the callbacks. Yeah. So we have some people that have chosen to, whether it be for financial reasons or just to be with their families, they've left the state or left the city to go elsewhere and stay kind of for the duration of the heaviest part of all this.
And it's okay.
It's okay. Absolutely okay. Yeah. In fact, we encourage it, you know, like, do what is going to make you feel like you can get through all this.
Right. I want to talk for just a couple of minutes about the virtual audition platform. It was funny when this whole thing started up again, and I found myself talking to clients about it. It was like my younger self started talking to me about, oh, don't you remember, this is like the days of live television, like when we used to have like a lot of live television. So to be able to train an actor to, first there was the self-tape challenge, and, you know, we're sort of on the road with that. But now all of a sudden, if you're being invited to this virtual audition, it's not that you have to be good with your self-tape, it's that you have to know how to behave like this, right? It's like, you should kind of think about the background. By the way, I hiked to the top of the Hollywood Hills.
I thought you did in that suit, nonetheless. Right, very impressive.
Thank you for noticing. And the quality of the, you know, obviously sound, lighting, all of that stuff. But there's the behavioral piece of it, is that like if we're in a meeting and there's a bunch of people in the meeting and you're talking, all eyes are on you because we're looking at you. But in a format like this, whoever's there is always on, right? So I think you have to be cognizant of the fact that everything counts. And I think that there's a learning curve to that when your microphone is on, they hear everything. And when you're still trying to find a way to book the room without actually being in the room is, for me, with my clients and other actors, the hugest challenge now to understand, how do you say hi? How do you log in? You know, how early do you know, all of those sort of little tidbits. How would you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the technical component of it, obviously, like you talked about, like making sure you know your way around Zoom. You know how to mute yourself. You mute yourself. You know how to, you know, fiddle with your video if you need to, and you know how to do a background if you're not in an appropriate place to show what your natural background is. All those things. Even we were talking with a client yesterday. We had a Zoom meeting, and we were talking about how, you know, it's this like, where do you look? Because you want to look at the person you're talking to, but that's not looking directly at them. You should be looking up at the green light, or for mine, it's a green light, because that is really means you're looking. But then we also can't help but look at ourselves, you know, so you're kind of bouncing all around. And so I think that's something that you really kind of have to get used to, this idea of looking at people directly is not looking at anyone. And that's kind of, it's like a, you know, I think your brain doesn't know what to do with that sometimes.
Which is interesting, because it's particularly with the millennials and others who we're now a selfie sort of society. Like you think we understood sort of what it means to do all of that, but it's a different platform.
It is. It's a different platform. Absolutely. And then, yeah, there's the, how do you just behave? How do you show your natural self so you don't feel too stiff and overly prepared and unnatural, but still professional? And then, there's the conversation aspect of it. And then you have to switch gears and go into audition mode if you're doing the scene again. And a lot of this is the same kind of thing that you have to practice and be aware of when you do go in the room for these important callbacks, because there's going to be some chit chat usually. And then you will have to like dive into the scene and kind of change gears and get right into that. So in some ways that's very similar, but it can be a different kind of intimidation in this format, I think, because everybody's faces are right there. And it feels like all eyes are on you in a way that's very different than in person.
It's very intimidating potentially, right? I mean, it's because there everybody is, right? And so I'm trying to have them minimize the feeling of, I want them to behave the right way and understand all of this, but I also want to minimize the feeling of, oh, I'm being judged by all those people in those little boxes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. And I think the thing about it is it just is one of those things that takes practice of just feeling comfortable. And then just remember, like, you're an actor. This is just like being on camera. This is what you've been training for and practicing for. Relax into it, breathe into it. It's really no different. It just looks a little bit different, but it doesn't have to feel all that different.
Right. So get up, get ready, brush your teeth, brush your hair, be clean, put on something decent to, present you to
right.
Package yourself in. And
at least from the waist up. Unless you have to stand up, then
Right. I'm going to add that to the next book. That's very good. And speaking of books, I'm very excited about this because you have a book coming out and you've been talking about a book you wanted to write for a long time. And I'm so excited that you dove into this and that you've done it. 10 top 10s from a 10%er is a lot of tens, and I hope it makes you a lot of tens of millions of dollars. Tell me about the book.
Yeah. Well, it's a concept that came to me probably at this point 4 or 5 years ago. And as you know, it can take a while to write a book. And,
yes, it can.
and especially when it's your first book, which it was for me. And and because I have a very busy full-time career, so it was something that I had formulated over a period of time. I wrote bits and pieces over a period of time. But the reason I wanted to do it is because I've been in this business a long time, and I've done a lot of Q&As. I've talked to a lot of actors. I've spoken at colleges like Emerson many times. I love providing information, advice, resources for actors to help them take some more control of their career and just feel more empowered. And so all this was in my head, and I was like, well, what do people do when they've been in a career for a while and they have all this stuff in their head? Well, they usually write a book about it.
Is that what we do?
Yeah.
I must pay attention.
Yeah. So I set out to do this, and the concept I came up with really was inspired by the listicle format that is very prevalent in a lot of journalism and articles and websites, and where lists of things, bullet points are a very easily consumed way. It's a way to easily consume information and read, and also something that you could pick up and put down, and you could read sections at a time. So I structured the book in such a way, hence the 10 top 10s piece of it. So it's 10 chapters, each are categorized, each have 10 items within them based on that category. There's a couple that have 11. There's some bonus things in there.
I like the bonus stuff.
Yeah, bonuses are good. So there's over 100 things. And
great.
Yeah, it's a variety of topics, anywhere from, the top 10 things you should ask yourself before you're going to move to LA or New York and start a career. What are some of the things you should think about before you even do that? And top 10 tips for getting an agent, top 10 ways to help stay grounded in this career so you don't go crazy and lose your mind. And
Or have
wonder
an
why you
agent or
made
manager who goes crazy and loses their mind.
right,
Right.
exactly. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of it, and it's in its final edit. So I'm hoping that by the fall it'll be coming out, and I do have a website where people can sign up to get on the mailing list.
Yeah, please, let's give that out to people.
10top10s.com. Simple.
Bravo. Brava.
Thanks.
Brava. Brava.
Thanks.
And congratulations. It's a great challenge and it's a great undertaking, but it also, I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of us have been in the business a long time. I never say I'm right, this is the only way. I say I have a perspective, and so I love that. And I think this sounds like a great opportunity for smart actors to dive into some of the questions they need answers to that they don't even know yet that they need answers to, whether they're new to the business or they've been in the business, because we always have those two kind of demographics. Like, how do we help the people who have been in the business and feel stuck or need a rebranding in a way, or all of the people who every year more and more people decide they want to enter the business, whether it's out of college or just out of one career into another. So any great source to help them do that is really a good thing. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. And that's really what it's all about, no matter where you're at, starting out, or if you just need a bit of a recharge to your career. It's a book that you might be able to pick up some great tidbits from and apply. So I'm proud of it, and I'm really excited to get it out there.
Perfect.
So
Perfect. And I'm excited to read it. I have a last question for you. So I always look at you as kind of a thought leader. You have a lot of things to say about where we are and where we're going. You always, have been very sort of shoot from the hip on that. We lost a pilot season this year, and so that's going to impact the fall. And as I see it, there's such a thirst for new content, right? I mean, I have nothing left to watch on Netflix. I've watched everything on Netflix. So the challenge moving forward, when it will continue to be safe and everybody can be protected going back to work, and there's I think going to be tremendous opportunities for people to work, but I also fear that there's not going to be budgets that we would love to see. So as much as we used to fight the ultra low budget, I fear that that's going to be the landscape that those of us who represent actors and the actors themselves are going to have to tolerate for a while until the financial piece of it sort of catches up with the need. Do you have anything, do you sort of have thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting to see. I think there's a lot of different ways to look at it. On one hand, it's going to take a while until we are really free of COVID-19, when we have a vaccine and it's really like we can truly get back on set in a more normal way, which means that anything that shoots has this huge component of safety guidelines and preparations, which basically it means there's this new budget factor, and that's going to affect how big of a cast they can have, how much they can pay their actors, variety of things. So, and I'm really worried about the ultra low budget and indie filmmakers, honestly, because I'm already seeing it with, right now I'm dealing with a producer who they're doing some reshoots for a film that shot earlier this year, pre-pandemic. And now they're having to accommodate for all these safety guidelines, and it's a big budget, it's a big expense. So already these ultra low budgets are eking out as much money as they can and trying to, get as much funding as they can. And so now here's another piece to that. So is that going to affect how many of these indie films are out there? Now, granted, they don't pay a ton, but they're still important to be out there. It's still important to have stuff being created. And on the other, we were also talking about this the other day. Right now, if you book a project that wants to quarantine their actors, well, now all of a sudden those actors get paid maybe up to 2 weeks of additional pay for being on hold, depending on what the deal is. So there all of a sudden is more money for the actors, although we may have fewer actors
Right.
on a set. So, and it's just, there's a lot of uncertainty still. And I wonder what will remain after all of this. I mean, I don't think we're going to be to a point where we have to have zones A, B, and C on set and all
Yeah.
these safety
Forever.
guidelines forever.
Yeah.
But some people are talking about how some of these changes to make it a safer set might stay intact.
Yeah. Unless you're
So,
shooting in England, then all you need, unless you're like, if you're in the business of acting, you can show up in England and go, I'm an actor, here's my contract. Oh, come on in. Otherwise, they quarantine you, right? So I get that all of these other places on the planet where movies are shot, they are also, of course, feeling that economic pinch, and they want to have business come back. But, again, it's the way to, when you have to juggle or balance. I mean, when we're talking about safety and protection, I mean, there really is no balance. You just have to do it, right? I mean, that's the job one.
Right. And just on the topic of pilot season that you mentioned, there's been some studio executives that have sort of suggested that a lot of this is going to change the traditional format or start to. It already was. We were already seeing a little bit of that change happening, as you and I know, with more pilots coming out throughout the year, even though we still had our traditional spring pilot season. But this has really forced everyone to think in a new way, in a different way, about the pilots that they greenlit and how they chose that. Basically, some pilots that never even got a chance to shoot, they had to decide in another way if they were going to go forward with them, which meant ordering more scripts so they could learn more about what the series would have in mind and basing the pickup on that or other things, which is what a lot of the streamers do, which is also what cable does, where they just do a straight to order series. They order scripts and they base it all on that and who's attached to it. And it may be that some of the networks start to adopt that formula because, frankly, it may save them money as well. I mean, it costs a lot of money to produce a pilot that may not ever see the light of day.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to see how this may change and shake up.
Yeah, we're all sort of, I think, figuring it out as it goes along. And I think that one of the last things I want to sort of ask you about is there are other states in the United States that are trying to lure productions there to their locations in particular. And so I've heard that, well, we could send a client in who could audition for a project that's supposed to shoot in LA, but then when they get booked, we find out that it's shooting somewhere else where they don't necessarily have the kind of restrictions or protocols that we have. And I always want to underscore that no job is worth any risk under any circumstance. And so it's never an opportunity that is so valuable that you should let your guard down, and I mean that literally and figuratively, that, it's not about this particular thing. It's always about the bigger picture. So we want our clients and all other actors to make smart choices about how they move forward through this and after.
Absolutely. And it's a very individual choice. And we've been talking to clients about this. Yesterday, I had a long conversation with an actress who is really kind of distraught about having to make this decision. And as a result, we're really diving into this is something that shoots out of state. So while the production is trying to comply with the SAG-AFTRA, the joint union safety guidelines, there's also the state that she's shooting in has their own. And the producers have been trying to convey everything that they're going to be doing. But there's still a lot of questions, and there's some things that she's really not comfortable with that are things that I've talked to other clients that they are more comfortable with. So it is such an individual choice. And the most important thing is that no actor should feel pressured by their agent, their manager, a producer, a director, a casting director to do anything.
Or by their husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend.
Yeah, for that matter.
Even worse.
Right. But it's not a time to put pressure on people to make this kind of decision. You should feel totally comfortable and confident that you understand what the production is going to put in place and that you're okay with it. Look, right now, I don't think anybody's going to be able to guarantee 100% no risk scenario. But all of these guidelines and the attempts that people are making is about trying to make it as safe as possible.
Yeah.
But frankly, every time any one of us goes to the grocery store, there is a potential risk, even though, we wear our masks and we social distance and, that's just the way it is. So we've been just feeling it out with every single one of our clients as avail checks come in or offers come in and talking it through. And at the end of the day, if someone's like, no, I'm not ready, I'm just not ready. We have an older client who has some preconditions, and he's basically like, not until there's a vaccine. I'm not willing to take that risk. And I totally get that. I mean, it's your life, possibly. Nothing's worth that,
Right.
The industry will be here after there's a vaccine, it'll still be here. And so,
I hope that's a pet, right?
Yeah, that is.
It's the joy of live television, right?
Yeah. Somebody walked by our front door and he got excited. He's a new little puppy.
Oh,
he's not quite a puppy, but he's a new dog.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
so
That's nice. It's ambiance. It's ambiance.
Yeah.
Well,
it's great.
Thank you for this. This is I treasure your perspective. I love hearing what you have to say, whether it's COVID pandemic time or not. I mean, you always have something important to say that I think is worth listening. It always, resonates for a long time after we have those conversations. And you will notice, I didn't ask you about the flan.
You didn't? Thank you.
See, I'm a man of my word. Thank you for this.
Next time, I should put that in my book. It'll be like a cliffhanger. Go buy the book to learn about the flan.
Right, exactly. And if anybody watching this wants to know about the flan, email me. It'll be our little added value secret.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really enjoy always talking to you, and thanks for allowing me to plug my book a little bit. And
absolutely,
let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, we will. And I'm excited about the book. Good luck with the book.
Thank you.
Stay safe. I'll talk to you soon.
Stay safe. Okay.
Thank you. Take care. Bye, Brianna.
Bye.